Okay, so today we are doing a little bit of review for the quarterfinal, which is coming up on this Thursday, right before spring break. And the quarterfinal, in this case, covers a lot of topics, including this stuff. And this is a sequence. Now, I want to ask you about this sequence. Do you remember the difference between this and this and this? One of them is the growth rate. One of them is called the common ratio. I want you to just take a guess and write it next to them. If you think this is the growth rate, you put a GR, or the common ratio, you put a CR next to it. It's either the GR or the CR. And then this 0.05, that's either the GR or the CR. And people get them backwards all the time. Let's see if you know which one's which. Hey, you got a 50-50 chance. I'll help you do better than that, though. Okay, this is the growth rate, the GR. This is the common ratio, the CR. Okay. What if we'd been just like adding something every time, like add 2, add 2, add 2? Then this whole thing would have just been a big +2, and then it would be called not geometric. It would be called what? Arithmetic. Good. Then those arithmetic, either way, and that +5 would be the common difference. Okay, the thing it grows by every time is called the common difference. This is a growth too, but it's called the growth rate, and this is the common ratio. All right, now how did you put this in a calculator? I hope, I gave them the task before I started the video, they put it in the calculator. I hope they knew, hope you knew, that we use u sub 0 as our first thing. Why? Because it says right here that the littlest n, the n's are the little subscripts, the littlest n we have is 0. So n min, the littlest n we have is 0. So that had to be a 0 right there. Okay, now I'm going to go down here, and I don't need to clear all of it out, but I have a different formula in there from before. Do you get that it's 1 times 1 plus 0.05, and then that's it for this equation. So I'm going to hit delete to get rid of all the rest of this I have in here for a more complicated problem. End the parentheses, and then I start with a 5. That's how you put that in the calculator. How many of you had that right? Okay. Now, what is the third term? I bet you I got a few of you on this one. Because if I go to table settings and make sure it starts with a 1, because I don't want to have to like count all the way back from 22, get your table set to start at 1, and then I go to the table. The first term was the 0. That was the first term. This was the second term, and that's the third term, 5.5125. Just count them if you want to. First, second, third one. See? Now, I think a lot of people would argue that it's supposed to be u sub 3. Not in this case. Why not? Because we started with u sub 0. If they ask you for the third term, you should start with u sub 1. You shouldn't start with u sub 0. If you want the third term, make the first term u sub 1. All right, so I did that to you on purpose to see if you actually would count up and see what the third term was, or were you going to just trust that it's u sub 3? U sub 3 in this case is the fourth term. All right, so if you want it to count nice, you should pick a 1. But if it's a real world problem, then you should pick a 0. So I'm going to give you one of those now where we are going to use u sub 0. This is a $20,000 loan for a car. That is a very typical amount because cars typically cost $22,000, $23,000. How come you don't take a loan for the whole thing? Because they don't let you. Usually loans require you to have money down, it's called. Because then what people would do in the old days before they did that was if they borrow all the money for the car, then they drive it for like 3 weeks, kind of trash it, and then don't make any payments. Do you get how the company gets a really bad deal that way then? Because you never even made any payments on the thing, and they don't catch on to that until like 3 months later, and then they take the car away, but you got to use the car basically for free. So they want you to have money down so that if they do take the car away early, at least you're going to lose some money. So that keeps people from wanting to say, fine, I'll just not make any payments then. Okay, so anyway, $20,000 loan, UN minus 1. Hopefully you already have that in your calculator. 1 plus, this is always going to be a plus when you're doing bank stuff, because interest, whether you're paying it or earning it, is a plus there. It could be a negative if it was like you're doing a population of animals is going down over time. Then that would be a decay rate. But in interest rates are always plus right there. So let's say it's 7% interest. Do you agree that most bank stuff is monthly nowadays? Okay, so then we put divide by 12. It does depend, but I would say the vast majority of payments are monthly payments. So the next thing is we got to pay off our loan minus, and let's make $800 payments. It'll get paid off pretty quick if we make $800 payments. How could I tell just by one thing up here that this was a loan versus an investment? The minus, yep. That minus right there tells me that it is a loan. If that had been a plus, it would have been an investment. Okay, I hope you got that in your calculator, because here is a typical question from there then. Let's just see if you put it in right. We'll make it really simple. How much do you still owe after 1 year? You look on the table. How much do you still owe after 1 year? Now, I kind of used a trick question there. In what way, or how are people going to get the wrong answer? Because they're not going to think about something. They're going to give me the first term, aren't they? Why would that be a bad answer? Because that would be 1 month. So after 1 year would be U sub 12. Okay. So let's get back to the calculator here and change my numbers around. I'll pause while I do that. Okay. So I'm over to my chart. I'm looking at U sub 12 because I want my 12th month. So that makes it 1 year. Do you get 11532? Okay. How many of you guys like to lose points for rounding? Then what should I do? Yes, sir. Go over right one. Notice the answer is actually 11531.733. Okay, you're right. But I could probably stop, since it's money, I could probably stop after 0.73. Right? So that'd be $11,531.73. Now, I could make the argument that, it's only a few cents. Okay, and in the case of like taxes, when you're paying your taxes, you can round to the buck. They're fine with that if you round to the nearest buck on your tax form. Okay, so there's times when rounding is totally fine. And if you're just talking to your friend, do your friend really care that you exactly owe $31.73? No, it's probably proper to round if you're talking to a friend. But what if you were like reading how much profit Apple had last quarter? This is probably in millions. Seriously, they have like that much profit in millions, like 11,000 million, which would be like billion. Then all of a sudden being off by only 73 cents is being off by like $730,000. See what I'm saying? So sometimes the decimals are decimals of such a big number that if you make a little error for Apple and you, oops, I lost you 730,000, you're probably losing your job, because they're going to be like, that's what I would have paid you for the next like 5 years, and you just lost it in some dumb mistake. So anyway, bottom line, just want to remind you, you look here, you see one answer. You look there, you see a different answer. So make sure you're looking in the right spot. That's the accurate one. You can always round it from there if you want to round it. Okay, next thing is, would you agree this amount is going down slowly over time? Okay. So if it's going down over time, eventually it would be 0, but it's actually never going to be 0 on the chart. Arrow down with me for a little while and see until you could find it where it's actually completely paid off. And it won't ever say you owe 0. What does it switch to? Negatives. That means you've made a payment and now they're giving you money back. This happens in the real world. Let's say that you are buying insurance and you pay them extra. You write the check for too much by accident. The insurance company can't just go, we keep the money, because that's their mistake. That's illegal, actually. Somebody could go to jail for that. So they have to send the money back to you. Yeah, I know. I tapped the button a bunch of times and it's still moving. It'll stop eventually. I didn't know how many times I'd hit it. Okay. I think it's finally stopped. Okay, so I'm going to go back up again and try not to make the same mistake. I'll just let it stay caught up with me. Okay, so you need to now figure out what was the total cost of the loan. All right, my calculator's having issues. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so now I can see what I want to see, and I can see that 28 is the magic number. 28 what? Chickens in Rwanda? Okay, fine. Obviously, it's not that then. It's 28 what's? Months, and each month you did what? You paid 800. So do you get it's 28 times 800? That's how much you paid. But don't they owe you something now too? So it's 28 times 100, but 28 times 800, but then you have to subtract 719, and let's get the exact amount. Thank you. There it is. 719.11. If you actually do that multiplication and then subtract 719.11, what do you get? Do you have it? Yeah, 21,680. And there's a decimal? All right. Then, would you agree that you paid them back more than you borrowed? Didn't you only borrow 20? Exactly, and that's how you get the how much interest did you pay number. You go, okay, well, I paid 20 for the loan, but I really paid 21,680. Oh, that 1680 is actually, when I subtract off the 20 I was originally planning to pay them back, the difference is the 1680.89, and that's why the bankers can build their buildings and pay their employees and actually make a profit, is because they take interest money from you. Otherwise, if all you did is give out money and then take the same amount of money back again, you don't make any money on that, right? It'd be great for everybody else. But here's the crazy thing. In Europe, interest rates have gone so low that they actually now, in some countries, are offering negative interest rates. So you borrow, let's say, $100,000 to buy a house, and in turn, you pay them back less than $100,000. Yep. So if they're at, let's say, negative 1% interest in their country's interest rates, which is really weird, they're doing that on purpose, trying to stimulate their economy. But because do you get some people that were on the fence, should I buy the house, should I not buy the house, are going to buy the house now? Because interest rates are so low, I got to take advantage of that and buy the house. So we're in unprecedented times. No world has never seen negative interest rates before. It's a weird thing, and we're going to find out whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. If it works out well, then basically they'll just slowly be able to raise the interest rates back up to being like, in that low range, and things will be okay. But if it doesn't work out well, all of a sudden it could cause, well, I shouldn't say cause. Maybe they'll not be able to stop deflation. And deflation is scariest thing for an economy. It's weird because from a consumer's perspective, it's a good thing because that means prices go down. Have we already seen deflation in a very common place? Yes, in gas prices, for example. And deflation in like normal things would be really unprecedented for you. Like you haven't seen the price of shirts, for instance, just go down. Other than a sale, of course, there's always sales. But I mean, like just generally, the prices have gotten cheaper. Or one day you'd walk into McDonald's and it's like, whoa, a whole bunch of things are like cheaper than they were last month I came in here. Deflation is weird because from a consumer's perspective, it really, you like it because like, oh, things get cheaper. But then what happens is a lot of people start losing their jobs because a lot of companies aren't selling anything anymore. People aren't buying cars because they're going to say what? Yeah, this is going to go down. I'll wait. And so all of a sudden, nobody buys cars anymore because they're like, I'm just going to wait. It's going to be cheaper next month. And then, oh, if nobody buys the cars, then all those people lose their jobs, and then they don't have any money to spend anymore. And all of a sudden, the economy starts spiraling downwards. So deflation is something that could happen. And that would be kind of like that whole negative interest rates thing, except it would be the price of shoes is going down each month. Okay. All right. So I'd like to give you, they have deflation in Greece. I believe you. You seem to be well read enough to know that. I know that their unemployment rate is really bad.
What it is because like their banks are having liquidity problems. Because no one will loan them money anymore.
Yep.
So like a lot of ATMs are actually running out of 20s, and so they're spending 10s, so they're actually running out of money. So the money's worth.
Gotcha. So Greece, it's got all kinds of strange things happening, and they almost dropped out of the euro, and then they had to get a bailout package, which they had to implement certain things on, and that caused them to maybe even have more trouble with their employment. So anyway, I don't mean to get too deep on you here, but I just want you to see that this is actually one of the best units for like real stuff that we ever did. All right, so if you, in the real world, I'm going to change the numbers a little bit. I want you to tell me the new answer. Go back to the y equals screen. Let's make this a borrowing money to buy a house problem. Okay, instead of 20,000, we're going to make it 100,000. You can buy a small house for that, with that much of a loan, maybe some of your own money plus a $100,000 loan. All right, next, we don't have to pay 7% interest on a house. They're typically a lot lower than that. Let's change it to 4% interest. Yeah, back in the day, when I bought mine, I got a 7% interest rate, and it was actually, that was a really good rate. Now all my friends are getting like 3 or 4% rates on their houses that they're buying now because rates have gone down a lot. That's kind of that deflation theme, except. So anyway, some strange things happening in the economy. In general, we're adding a lot of jobs, and so the U.S. is actually looking better than a lot of places. Because our unemployment rate's only like 5% compared to America. Thank you. It was good to have America in the crowd. Okay. Anyway, this goes to 100,000. I'll make sure I put the right number of zeros here. There we go. And then this one goes to 4% instead of 7. And my question is, we're going to make $1,800 payments. Now let's make it $2,800. Did I say 4% or 3%? Okay, thank you. We're going to make $2,800 payments because house payments are a lot bigger than car payments or whatever that other thing was. And I want to know what's the total amount of interest. That's the hardest number to find because you have to find everything. The total amount of interest. So first find the total amount you paid, and then that'll kind of tell you, based on that compared to 100,000, what the total amount of interest was that the bank earned by lending you that money. Total amount of interest. To give you a hint, it'll be on the table wherever the table turns negative. Yes? The payment is $2,800 a month. 2,800 is the payment. Okay, I'm going to pause so we figure that one out. All right, sorry about the delay there. And here is our grand total. We go over to table, but somebody tell me, so I don't have to spend a ton of time finding it, what line was it on? Thank you. So I'm going to go to table settings in 39. You can see how quick you can get to a further spot on the table that way, as opposed to arrowing down 39 times. So there we go. And okay, sorry, the calculator's all goofy. All right, I'm going to arrow up now to show, yep, it was positive there. I only owed $248 there. make one more payment, and they owe me 2,551. So what you should have done is 38 times 2,800. Nope, 30. Oh, you're right. 39. 39 times 2,800. Then they owe you money back. So you have to subtract. And if you want to be careful here, 2,550.84. Get what I'm saying? I think some of you probably used the rounded number, and it might be off on the test. So be careful on that. Which would give you that same exact 0.835 thing, yes. I mean, it would give you the same number. It's just it won't give you the rounded number. It'll give you the exact number. Okay, so then you have to round it yourself, and you say if this is real money, then that's how much I subtract, except that was a 5, so then this rounds to a 4. Okay, so then the grand total you paid for your house, it wasn't 100,000. It was more. It was 100 and what thousand? 109, 200? All right, raise your hand if you guys, other than the decimal, you got that same answer. Okay, good. Then, no? Uh-oh. Well, it can't be 100,000. I know that because you pay more than your house. Oh, 106? What? Okay, here's what I need to know. Would you right now on your calculator type in this number? 2,800 was the payments, right? Times it by how many? 39. Everybody, if you haven't already done this, do this. And then you get that answer. What is it? Then you subtract off how much they owe you back, which is how much? I'm going around to 8.4 there. Would you subtract that then? Minus 2,550.84.
I got 106,649.16.
Awesome. Now I get why some people would say it's 109 and some people would say it's 106. Remember, this is money they owed you back. They're going to give you that money back. So the actual amount is the 106. All right. So 106,000-ish. You paid more than your original intended to borrow. That's interest. They made 6,649.16 in interest. Okay, that's okay. That's what they do. That's their job, is to lend you money, and you wouldn't have agreed to it. You know, like if you'd known that they're going to charge you interest. It's all up front. So a lot of times it surprises people how much it adds up to. See, on a house like this, 6,000 extra bucks. That's a lot of money. And honestly, it's on a normal house situation. Often people are paying $50,000 in interest over the course of their loan. $50,000 of interest, because loans are for much more than this, and the loans are stretched out over 30 years, and this was only 39 months, which is a lot less than 30 years. If you stretch out your interest for a long time, you pay your house out down for 30 years, the bank gets a lot more money than that. Okay. All right, so that's a review of the hardest stuff. The only thing we didn't cover there was long run value, and I'll cover that tomorrow. So right now, I want you to see if you can do that top part of the worksheet, all the parts that say loans and investments, which is quite a few problems. And as I said before, if you do a half an hour at home, I'd say that that's a reasonable amount. You can stop at that point because we have several nights to get this done. The test isn't until Thursday. Yes? Yep, you can skip the ones about long run value because I haven't explained how to do those yet. So that's a good question. Yes? There's two parts that you have to do. So I said do it for an hour, do it for a half hour at home. And a half hour at home is a reasonable amount of time for tonight. You can do more tomorrow and the next night. But again, if you're skipping ones that have long run value in it, because I haven't re-explained them again, that's going to make it even easier to get further. So just get as far as you can in a half hour. I trust you on that. All right, and that's all the time that I have for you for today.